James von Praagh is arguably the most famous and successful spiritual medium of our time. Since 1997, James has been on the front lines explaining the spirit world to mainstream America. His eerily accurate readings have been witnessed by millions through his many TV appearances and lectures. He is the co-executive producer of the primetime series Ghost Whisperer, starring Jennifer Love Hewitt, the #1 drama for CBS. He is also a New York Times best-selling author of 8 books, including Unfinished Business, What the Dead Can Teach Us About Life, Ghosts Among Us, Uncovering the Truth About the Other Side, and Talking to Heaven. James challenges us to question our perceptions and shows us how we can live more fully through understanding the world of spirits. So, from what I've read about your life, it sounds like you were just like the little boy from The Sixth Sense.
Yes, I think, I don't know, officially if that movie was based on my life, but a lot of the experiences that child had, I had the same ones. But these spirits weren't scary ones or dark ones. They actually were very enlightened, happy, joyful, and I look forward to seeing them. So my childhood was very much like that.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It was great. Yeah, and my mother used to say to me, those are God's angels, and they'll always take care of you. So you had nothing to fear, and that was really the way it was.
When did you realize the full extent of your gift?
Well, the childhood was pretty amazing, but the kids are very open. So to me, that was very, very natural. And then in my teenage years, it ended. I didn't really pay attention to that. I didn't really see things until my early 20s. And I went to see a medium from England, just in a fluke. I just went with a friend, and I didn't necessarily believe in it. And she goes, would you go see this guy? And I said, okay. And I walked into his apartment, his flat, actually, Manhattan Beach. And he said, you're a sensitive, you're a medium, and the spirit world wants to use you to be a conduit, to change the consciousness of this world, this planet. And I'm like, I just moved to California to sitcom writing. I didn't want to do it. I don't know what the heck you're talking about here. And I was like, I think this guy's crazy. I just moved to California from New York, and in New York we heard the California land of fruit and nuts. So I thought, perfect, here we go, here we go.
It's already began.
It's already began. And but what he did was he did a reading for me, and he brought through major details as far as names of people, events that happened in my life, events that happened in my parents' life, that he didn't know anything. He didn't know me. He didn't know anything about my family. No one knew me then. And he was completely accurate.
Wow.
So it started me thinking, and I thought, there's something about this. And I started reading as many books as I could. And I'm very much that way. I like to discover things if I don't know them. And so I read up, I must have read about 200 books. Yeah, from all over the world. And through all the books, there was a common theme about if you want to know what your soul's path is, and if you want to visualize your future, there's a way to do that, and it's through meditation.
Right.
And so I started meditating, and I just really meditated to visualize my future as a sitcom writer, and to, to feel better, I guess, because I didn't know what meditation was like. I was from New York, I had no idea. I knew it involved breathing. So I just did the breathing, and I visualized like different things, and roses, and the future, and happiness, and this sort of thing. And I'd say probably about a month after doing that, after doing a meditation, for just 15, 20 minutes a day, when I'd think about it, about a month after, I started seeing spirit again. I started seeing forms around people. First of all, mists, and the mists would grow, and the more I meditated, the stronger those visions became.
Really?
Yeah, and it's like a camera focusing in the camera. And the more I meditated, the stronger the details became. Wow. And then it got to a point where I would see them very clearly, and I would see people's auras, the electromagnetic field around everybody. And I'd see the colors, and it was so interesting because I noticed that their emotions, the way they behaved, matched the color around them. And remember, this is when I first started. I knew anything about auras and so forth.
Right.
And I was working.
And were you starting to see them in your daily life?
Daily life.
Yeah, so it wasn't just during meditation.
No,
you were
it was
seeing
daily
them all
life
the time.
now. Yeah, oh yeah.
That must have been a little bit disconcerting.
It was a little, it was. And at the time I was working at Paramount Studios in the contract department for syndication, preparing contracts for syndication. And I remember there was a girl that worked with me in another cubicle, and she was into astrology. And I thought she'd be cool to talk to about this stuff. And one day, she came back from lunch, and there was a lady following her spirit. And the lady looked at me, and she went, like, right with her eyes. And telepathically, she sent me a thought, and she said, I'm her grandmother. And I lived in Idaho in a yellow house with white shutters. And what happened was she talked about a footstool cover and needlepoint. And I said, sounds really, really crazy, but do you know what this lady's talking about? Because the first time I experienced this. And she said, yes, that was my grandmother. And I used to visit her every summer at her house in Idaho, in the yellow house with white shutters. She taught me how to do needlepoint. And we made a footstool cover together. And she promised me that summer, when she goes, if she can ever come back and say that she's okay, she will. So this was the first time. So everything made sense.
Right.
And I freaked out.
Did you?
Oh yeah, I didn't know what to do. I was like, this is the first time this has ever happened to me.
Right.
I ran out of Paramount, which I'm sure a lot of people have done prior. And I ran out.
For other reasons.
I'm sure, for other reasons. And I ran back to my apartment and I didn't know what to do. I was kind of changed because I couldn't look at the world the same. Everything was going to be different now because it was all validated. Before, if I saw colors, I mean, now it's validated.
But
still. So I called up that medium that I went to see. And because that's the only number I knew and a person I knew I could talk to. And he said, and his name was Brian, which is very interesting because I have a lot of Brians in my life, which is another interesting thing. But he said, James, don't you remember that the spirit world predicted you would do this work? I said, yeah. And he said, that was 2 years ago today.
Oh, wow.
It was 2 years exactly.
That's amazing.
And that just changed my whole life. And then I really did, because of that feeling I got from that grandmother, the sense of that energy of love, which I think just is so limiting. We talk about love, but you really can't. It's just such an energy. And I knew that that would help people. And I started reading for friends, and I saw the change that came over them, the transformation.
Yeah.
So I thought there's nothing better on this earth to do than to work with love and help people with love. Yeah.
Well, what's maybe one practice that we could all do every day to tap into our own psychic abilities?
Good question. There are many, many ways of doing it. I'm going to tell you an easy, practical way, because people think it's just this thing that you have to be like all holy and thou to have this. No. I find that I tell people, you know, intuition means into the soul. So it's the language of the soul. And everybody can get in touch with that by doing fun stuff, practical stuff. Well, elevator banks. Push the elevator button. Which elevator is going to open first? Which to intuit? You get a bill in the mail, an invoice, what
will it be?
What will the number be?
Right.
In LA, we have a great one, as you know, parking spaces. Where's the parking space going to be? So this is a muscle. You know, our intuition is a muscle, and the more you use it, that instinct, and we all have instinct, we all have intuition. We're born with that sixth sense. So the more you use it, it's like a muscle. The more it develops. You can do it easy ways. And I also think it becomes a part of believing in yourself too.
Yeah.
Having that, once you get that feeling, trusting it and practicing it.
So for those of us who are not mediums, and how can we connect with our loved ones from the other side?
There are many, many ways. First of all, they try to connect you with every day, such as, oh yeah, every day they're around us. Whether it's an inspiration, a thought of them that you have, you might be driving in your car and you think of them. They might be sitting next to you, sending you a thought of them. It's usually mind-to-mind communication. Another way they try to get through to you.
When I start to write fiction, I'm sure that my grandfather's going to come through. Yes.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Hello, duh. Hello.
Yeah, hello.
You think?
Yes, waiting.
Yeah, because we're all channels. He's waiting, so you know that, and you know, we're just vessels anyway. We're all just channels, so of course he'll come through and use your expression to get through to help you. So there are simple ways actually. The number one way that spirits communicate with us and we communicate with them is through the dream state. So if you go to sleep at night and you ask your loved one, please come through me in a dream, please come through me in a dream, they will. Might not be that night, might be 2 weeks ahead, a month ahead, but they will certainly try to. But they come through also in other ways. You got to be open to electricity, lights go on and off, blinking all the time. Scents, sometimes it comes through with smells like perfume or aftershave, something you can recognize that. We all have, exactly. And sometimes you see someone who looks like your loved one that has passed over, it's like far away, it's like, wow. That's happened to me in an audience. I'll see 1,000 people. I'll say, my brother-in-law. And it's bizarre. It's happens a lot. So they come through in different ways. And we just got to be open to it. Just open up our minds and our hearts to listening, to hearing.
That it's okay. Are there any spiritual practices that you recommend?
Meditation.
Yes.
Meditation. And meditation doesn't have to be formal necessarily. Meditation can take any place, any sort of situation where you can put yourself in centering yourself, getting back to your core. Whether that's writing, right? Whether that's gardening, I love to garden. Whether it's going to the ocean, whether it's painting, anything that gets you back to source, to yourself, and to really have that, get into that power, tune into that power. That's really meditation. It doesn't have to be a formal meditation necessarily. So that's how.
Yeah. So what do you think about reincarnation?
Reincarnation. Well, since we've been together many lifetimes, you should know this, but. I do believe, yes, I do believe in reincarnation because, you know, the soul, we're just physical, we're souls having a physical experience. And I think that we come back to learn. I think this is our schoolroom down here. And I do believe that we come back and take many, many lessons. And some of those lessons are easy ones, and some of them are difficult or appear difficult. For instance, losing loved ones, that's a difficult one. A mother losing a child, that's a really hard one. The people in your lives right now who are the hardest ones to get along with, they're your greatest teachers. Because if we are all one, which I do believe we're all one, then what are they teaching me about myself? Because they're a reflection of you. They are a mirror to what's going on with you. So it's like, what do I need to have in whole? What needs to be in wholeness?
What would you suggest, because you're right. I mean, I think we are here to learn, but sometimes we have to keep learning. How come the same lesson? Are we just not getting it?
I think there are many reasons why. And I think it's karma, the love, cause, and effect.
True.
And I think in lifetimes you evolve. You learn from one lifetime to another lifetime. I also think in one lifetime you did, you were the mother, maybe in the lifetime you have to be the father. There's got to be a balance. There's got to be a balance. I also believe, and I've heard this, and I like this idea, that we're kind of like on this wheel, the wheel of karma, and we keep on coming back here if we get stuck on the emotional part. If you can step back and look at observe it from the bigger picture, the bigger perspective, and see the emotion, what it is, and not get sucked into it. Right? And not come from judgment. Come from judgment, because then you're sucked into the emotion and the karma. But step back and see, what are you being taught here?
Yeah.
What are you learning? And that's a secret. I think if the perspective changes, you step back and see the bigger picture, and keep on reminding yourself about that, I think that's the first step on that road to...
Now, what's the biggest misconception about death?
Oh, the biggest misconception about death is that people are dead.
Okay.
There will be parents. Well, I understand this. People think that people are actually alive in the coffin that's buried. They're buried in the ground, and they'll go there and talk to them. And spirits have come through and said, "I'm not in the ground, or I'm not in that box in the closet. I'm not there. I'm not. I'm bigger than that, and I'm much bigger than that. And there's no pain with death."
Yeah, it's interesting. My father died actually in front of me in a hospital room, and I saw him leave his body, or felt him. I didn't actually see it, but I felt him, and I knew at that moment that he was gone out of the physical body. But I knew he was okay. Not that I didn't mourn or was sad.
You're human.
But it was so clear. There was no question that I felt him move out, and it was like he was no longer in the body. So that's very interesting.
I had the same experience with my father, same thing.
Yeah.
With my father, he was in a coma, and I said, "It's okay to go now." And he said, "I just don't want you kids fighting over the house." So I turned to my siblings and I said, "He doesn't want us fighting over the house." Now, he was unconscious, but I was picking him up because he was half out of the body. Yeah. And I told this out, and we all laughed about it. And then I said, "No, we'll be just fine." And he died 5 minutes later.
Wow.
Yeah, but I saw people filling up in the room. I saw the spirits coming to get him, because everybody comes to get you when you die. You're always greeted by loved ones who come to get you and help you over. And we've heard many, many times where for months before in a hospital room or a hospice or even at home in bed, they will have their loved ones. They'll say, "I saw Mom," or "I saw somebody who's best." And that's very, very common. It happens. It's real.
That's interesting. Do you have anything to say for those to comfort them who've lost a loved one?
That your loved ones are always around you, because they're in a different dimension. There's a different dimension. It's not a linear dimension like we have in this three-dimensional world. In that dimension, they can be in several places at once. And they're always over there to help us and guide us, because the love that ties, the love bonds that we create on this earth continue on. And you'll see them again. Yeah. And they might have had to go ahead to help you on this earth. They might be your guardian angel, your guide. Right. And I've had that happen many, many thousands of times with my readings. They've said, "I had to go now," even if it's a child that had to go. "I had to help you to fulfill your spiritual path by me being over here and you on the earth."
Right.
So that's that connection. That's that wholeness.
How do you define spirituality?
I think spirituality is the recognition that we are spirits first and foremost, and living a life based from that point of view. Right. That you're a spirit, and it's how you live your life that way. Whether that's being mindful, whether that's using compassion and forgiveness, that's really what it's about. That's really what it's about.
What would you say to somebody who doesn't think of themselves as spiritual?
Well, there's a lot I could say to them, but that's a good one. I would just have to sit and talk with them for a little while. 5 minutes with me, I think that'd be enough. And they would, they might get the idea.
Get hooked into somebody from
because we always, part of being spiritual, that the properties that go with spirituality, joyfulness, happiness, love, everybody's felt that. Yeah. And that's tuning into your spirit. That's part of your spirit. Yeah. So if you have those emotions, those feelings, you're a spirit. That's the way it is. Yeah. And everybody has thoughts and things. You can't see the thoughts, but we know they exist because we have them within us. Yeah. It's all that sort of thing. I think it's a wonderful journey for everybody to go on, and I think it's a great journey for people to help guide people to that journey.
Right.
And whether it takes a form of going through different religions or meditation practice, whatever it is that gets that person to go within to that path. So many paths to the light, many, many paths to the light, but it's only one light, right?
Right.
So whatever works for that person to help them is what's important.
Yeah. That's wonderful. So switching gears, because we are here about film.
Oh yes, we're going to talk about film,
right.
weren't we? Forgot about that.
What does spiritual film mean to you? And tell me some of your favorite transformational films.
Spiritual film. Well, I think that spiritual films, I would say, are ones that touch the core of a being, touch your core inside you, whether you think that's an emotional core, whatever that is, that love, that sense of oneness, that love. I think that's it. And transformation is to help you to recognize that and to reevaluate yourself and your own life in a way like, wow, this is an amazing insight. Transformational. I think spiritual movies can be very, very transformational. And some of my favorite ones, because you take the human condition and you can see the strongest part of the human condition for me is love, that energy of love. Spirit is love. And I think any movie that depicts that love and brings a human condition and changes the condition with love and makes people see it from a different perspective, that's spiritual movies to me. And some of my favorite movies that do exactly that. The Miracle Worker, one of my all-time favorites. I cry every time. And the number, I'd say, well, it's between those two, To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, To Kill a Mockingbird. I mean, that to me, and I use that in my books. I talk about that because you really don't know. There's a wonderful line, you don't know somebody till you stand on the porch of their house. You don't know anybody here in their shoes, and you don't. We can judge people, but until we know their background, we really shouldn't judge because we don't know the whole story. So that really is a wonderful, wonderful movie. And The Color Purple I loved also.
Do you see films as an opportunity for social connection?
I see television and I see films as that. Because I work in television.
Yeah, I know.
And I do, and in films the same way. I think that those mediums, forgive the pun, and they get worse. They really, it can be used the best optimum way is to change and transform millions and millions of people, which they can do, which we've seen that.
Yeah.
And I think that as the consciousness shifts, which it is, and changes in humankind, it'll reflect that in the movies and reflects that in television. And yeah, I love that. I think that it can be it's a wonderful tool to use to change the consciousness. Yeah. You know, really.
I agree.
Universal. And I don't like getting caught up in the fear. You know, I believe life is a series of choices, and all choices are based on either love or fear, and that's it. And there's nothing more. It's just those two things. So I think that once we get to that area of love, that you don't have to be afraid of things, and movies will reflect that in that transformation.
If time, money, and talent were no obstacle, what kind of film would you make?
Oh, wow, that's a good one. I would like to make a movie about the other side of life, about where you go to when you leave the physical body, and what's it like as far as when you're greeted by the loved ones, the whole transformational process of leaving the physical, going to the spiritual. That's the kind of movie I would love to make. When Dreams May Come started it, when they did that movie, there was a couple of things there I wasn't quite happy with. I love the colors they used. That was great special effects. But a movie like that, and that to help teach people that way, that's the kind of movie I would do. I would definitely do that.
I would love to see it.
Yeah, and I'd like the movie to also have, which is so important, that when you pass into that spiritual dimension, and what it's like, the experience of actually what happens when you have a life review. And in that life review, you see your whole life you just lived, and what you said to someone or thought about someone, you see the rippling effect of what happened. And then you teach people that, you know what, you got to be mindful of your thoughts, words, and deeds, because they'll meet you on the other side. And that to me is a very important notion for people to understand, because once they realize that they're going to be met with their thoughts, with their actions, and that they have to start thinking a little differently and living a little differently, living in a mindful way.
What about the future has you optimistic or inspired?
Oh boy, what has me inspired in the future? Well, there's no time, so you're confusing me. No, you know, I like to say that I've seen for the past 25 years, because I've been doing this about 26 years now, there's been a change in consciousness as far as the whole planet. That this work now, spirituality, the paranormal, whatever you want to call that, at least it's more accepted now. And it's becoming more to the mainstream. When I first started this years and years ago,
it had to be so.
It was tough. It was tough. They were going to lock me up. And they're still going to lock me up in a different place. I don't know. I know it's going to happen. But I like to say that it's going to become much, much more mainstream, and I think it will be. I know it will be, because we all
you give people the opportunity to tune into their own psychic abilities, their own sense of spirituality. I think that helps, because as people have their own experiences.
I validate this intuition.
It validates their own,
everybody has experiences, so it just validates that.
Yeah.
And once people have that power, it's very, very interesting. When I do workshops with people, and we do a workshop where they do an intuition exercise, and they get stuff for people, they get so excited. They go, I can really do this. Yesterday I had a 65-year-old guy, he had a partner with a 67-year-old man, and he brought through his wife, the other man's wife, and he was so excited, and this light went around him. It was like, and he said, wow, I can do it. It's giving people back their power, that they do have this power, and I think that's what's going to happen more and more. Yeah.
That's so nice.
So it's exciting.
Well, this has been so much fun talking to you.
Thank you, sweetheart. We'll be doing it again.
Yes.
I see it.
Love that. Do tell me more. Thank you so much.
I will,
yeah, okay, good. Thanks,
sweetheart.
Thank you.